What's going on, everybody? It is Sean Daniel with Guitar Control here, and today we are going to master some very simple scales, and we're not just going to learn how to play the scales, we're going to learn how to actually practically use them so they sound a little bit more musical when you start incorporating them into your own playing. So make sure to click the tab below and subscribe to the channel because you're going to want to follow along with some of these exercises that we're going to go through, because a lot of times it's easy just to have a visual along with you when you're going at it. So basically, what is a scale? A scale is just a collection of notes that sound good together. And in Western music, we all kind of share the same scales. Major, minor scale type stuff is what you've heard of, kind of like that pentatonic minor scale, which we're going to learn in a second. In other cultures, they have different types of scales that they work with. So really, the sound of the scale that you're using has a huge impact on the music. So scales are something that every musician should have at least a fundamental, basic understanding of, and that's what we're going to go over. So by the end of this video, you will have that basic understanding to become a master before you even know it. So we're going to start with the pentatonic scale. Okay, so all that is a 5-note scale, and maybe you've even seen it before. The one we're going to use is going to be the A minor pentatonic. All that means is we have a root note from the scale, an A, and then we have a shape, a hand shape that we kind of use to go over this. And this is something that guitar players have an advantage over because we can work in shapes, and scales are a little bit easier to see in positions and shapes, all right? So when we start on this A, the 5th fret on the E string, low E string is an A, okay? We're gonna do a thing where every finger gets its own fret. So your pointer finger is responsible for the 5th fret, your middle finger is responsible for the 6th fret, your ring finger is responsible for the 7th fret, and your pinky is responsible for the 8th fret. In fact, a really great warm-up that you can do just to kind of like work on your reach is just to do every single fret on every string, just like that, and go forward and backwards, right? Now, a lot of people will tell you that like forward and backwards is the way to go, which is definitely true, but a lot of what we're going to be working on today is going to be changing directions mid-scale, all right? So first, let's just rock out these notes in the A minor pentatonic, and we're going to do 3 strings at a time. We're going to work on the low strings first, and it's going to sound like this. Okay, really easy. Now the frets, like you'll see on the tab, are 5-8 on the E string, 5-7 on the A string, 5-7 on the D string, okay? So, now one thing you'll notice when I'm playing is a lot of beginners have a tendency to kind of like come straight down and then switch like this. Silly mentality. That's one finger at a time. Very short-sighted. What we want to do is we want to do it where we can smoothly go forward and backwards. So after I have my pointer finger on the 5th fret, and I'm grabbing that 8th fret with my pinky, I'm not taking my hand off the fretboard and going down to the next string and then doing the same thing. I'm actually kind of rotating. Like if you look at my arm, which again, I'm exaggerating this, so it's not like you move your arm every time you switch strings, but I'm kind of getting leverage on that. So my pointer finger is going from here, and then I'm just kind of rolling it down when I change strings. And this will actually really help with your speed, because if you leave this string and it sounds like this, that's like really kind of messy, sloppy sound. We want to start tightening it up. And once you start kind of gliding over the strings from string to string, you'll notice that your playing is getting cleaner, it has a tighter sound, and it's just going to be a more enjoyable experience for all those involved. So, we've got the 5th fret on the E string, the 8th fret on the E string, down to the 5th fret on the A string, the 7th fret on the A string, the 5th fret on the D string, and the 7th fret on the D string, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to break these 6 notes into numbers. We've got the first note of the scale, the second note, the third note, the 4th note, the 5th note, and the 6th note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we want to be able to fluidly go forward 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But what's going to be a more musical exercise is to start playing around within these 6 notes and just doing kind of different combinations of them. So maybe the first one we can do is a 1, 4, 5. Okay, so we take the first note, we're going to skip the second and third notes, go right to the 4th note there, and then up there. And now just by kind of skipping some of these intervals, an interval just being space between 2 notes, we're getting a different sound. Like this is always going to sound like a scale, kind of a bluesy scale. That's what the pentatonic scale is kind of known for, is like bluesy sounding stuff. So you'll notice I'm kind of swinging it now. So I'm just getting the first note, the 4th note, and the 5th note. 1st, 4th, 5th, 1st, 4th, 5th, 1st, 4th, 5th, 1st, 4th, 5th. Now, the timing of it is totally up to you. You just want to be able to do it smoothly. It doesn't matter how fast you're going at first. It doesn't matter how slow you're going. It's just whatever is comfortable and clean. Then maybe we could add the 6th note. 1, 4, 5, 6. And then the second time we're going to go around, this is the one that's going to be on the tab. 1, 4, 5, 6, 1, 4, 2. 1, 4, 5, 6, 1, 4, 2. Okay, so again, there's nothing super special about this specific exercise, the sequence of notes. It's really just about being able to switch directions inside of it. You can do any combination of numbers. In fact, if you want to just draw random numbers out of a hat, the numbers 1 through 6, you can come up with cool patterns. Maybe you want to start with 3, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 1, 6, 5, 3, 4, 2, 1, 6, 5. A lot of cool different combinations you can get with just the lowest 3 strings. We're going to do the same thing now with the highest 3 strings to continue on in this pattern, in this position, okay? So again, every finger still gets its own fret. The G string is going to be your pointer finger and your ring finger, and the bottom 2 strings are both going to be pointer, pinky. Index, ring, index, pinky, and then backwards. And you'll notice, like here, when we did the 1, 4, 5, if these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we'll get a different sound. 1, 4, 5. The same thing, notice how I'm not lifting and moving. I'm kind of just rotating a little bit to get my fingers to where they need to be. Okay? So we've got 2 positions, or well, we're thinking of breaking this one position into 2 parts, the low part and the high part. I think that when you're first starting out with scales, thinking of a position across all 6 strings can be a little much, and you're not really getting the focus that you need to out of your practice. So that's why I really like kind of setting up and limiting yourself to just those 3 strings. And then maybe you could pick the next 3, so like the A, D, and G strings, which is really easy because it's all just the same 2 fingers. Then back to the beginning, okay? So I really like breaking up little pieces of chords and working within them, all right? So this is just going to be the A minor pentatonic. And again, that comes from that root note. The beautiful thing about this is you learned one shape, but you actually learned 12 different scales because there's 12 different notes. So the note that comes after A is A sharp. We can do the same thing, play the A sharp minor pentatonic scale using the same hand pattern that we just did. And everything you did before is going to sound great, but now we're in a different key. Do the same thing. The next note is a B. Now, however our root note is, that's going to be responsible for the name of the scale. Okay? So, I want to go over one more scale, and we're going to make it a little A little more interesting, and we're going to use the major scale as an example, okay? Major scale is probably something you've heard of millions and millions of times in your life without even being aware of it. If you've ever heard do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, like that, that is the major scale just on a guitar, okay? And it's really the same thing as the pentatonic scale, except we're adding 2 notes. So if you remember the first 3 strings that we did on this, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're gonna do the same thing on the major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now we have 8 notes, okay? And this is where the term an octave comes from, if you've heard that before. All it is, we start on 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we end on 8. And these are the same notes, an octave apart. Major scale is actually the most important thing you can learn on any instrument, right? And we're gonna talk more about that in the future. But we're gonna learn the shape for this and do the exact same thing and apply all the same concepts we did to the first one, okay? So we're gonna start with our middle finger this time. Last time we started with our pointer finger. Everything still applies where every finger gets its own fret. But we're lining our pointer finger up with the 7th fret, but starting with our middle finger, all right? So now we're gonna go middle pinky, which is 8, 10. By the way, this is a C that I'm holding down on the 8th fret, so this is the C major scale. Our root note is a C. Our shape is the major scale, so C major scale. Middle pinky, A string, index, middle pinky, 7, 8, 10. D string, index, ring, pinky, 7, 9, 10. So the advantage to this scale over the last one is we're actually using all 4 of our fretting fingers, whereas this one we only used 3. We never used our middle finger for the minor pentatonic one. So 8, 10, 7, 8, 10, 7, 9, 10. And now this is where the numbers become really, really important because you can speak with other musicians in the same way. Now, I liked numbering the pentatonic scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But if you're like, people don't usually communicate pentatonics in numbers, but they will communicate the major scale in numbers. That's why that octave thing comes from the major scale, a 1 and an 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Really get familiar with these numbers because they're going to be incredibly helpful in your musical journey for all of time, right? So, middle, pinky, index, middle, pinky, index, ring, pinky. That's the sound of the major scale. Every single song that you've heard of in Western civilization is rooted in this scale and uses these 7 different notes, 8 if you want to count the octave, okay? So same thing as before, we can do just different combinations of numbers. In fact, if we take a 1, a 3, a 5, and an 8, we're making something that's called an arpeggio. Now, we have more videos on arpeggios on this channel if you want to check this out, but this is just a real quick introductory of using a scale to get a sound. 1, 3, 5, 8, 5, 3, 1. All right? There's the whole scale. And then really experiment with these different intervals. Again, interval just being a space between these 2 notes, right? In fact, we can actually measure intervals based on these numbers, right? So if we take the first note, we go all the way to the 7th note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we just go from the 1st to the 7th. The distance that you could talk to another musician about is actually a major 7th interval, because we're using the major scale and we're going 7 notes away. That's the root note, and it's major 7th. We just want a major 7th higher, okay? A lot of cool different things that we can do with this. In fact, we could actually add that 7th note to what we just did with a 1, 3, 5, 7, 8. In fact, this is going to be on the tab too. 1, 3, 5, 7, 8, 7, 5, 3, 1, 3, 5, 7, 8, 7, 5, 3. And if you look at my hand, it doesn't really look like I'm moving much at all. It's a really, it's a very smooth, seamless kind of exercise that you're not going all around and kind of like always having to check your hand and check where it is on the frets and so on and so forth. So really kind of get used to those fingers being in that position. And then we're going to do the highest 3 strings just like we did with the other one. So again, all the rules still apply. All the fingers are in the same spot. We're going to go pointer, ring, pinky on the G string, 7, 9, 10. Middle pinky on the B string. And then on the high E string, index, middle, pinky. All right? So again, on the G string. Index, ring, pinky, B string, middle, pinky, high E string, index, middle pinky. Now we can do the same thing if we number these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We can still just start combining different numbers. We could do a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, starting here. Same difference, right? So once you have each of those 3 groupings of strings together, then you can start combining them into one entire shape. The beautiful thing about the shapes I just taught today is that they go together, okay? In any key, like if this is the key of C, is a root note C, this A minor pentatonic shape will actually fit perfectly with them. In fact, these are 2 connected shapes. So you can play the A minor pentatonic. This is going to be the last figure on the sheet. See how I connected those? I started going up the A minor pentatonic, sliding 2 frets higher, and then going backwards through the C major scale. Now again, there's nothing really musical about that exercise right there. It's just a way to familiarize yourself really well with 2 shapes. What I want you to do is start experimenting and kind of playing in one shape. You could do that little riff that we did in that shape, and then take it down into the next shape. So we have 2 shapes to work with that you can just jump in between and get your fingers used to kind of taking up this much of the fretboard, which is a huge chunk, right? So you're already on your way to mastering it just by learning 2 shapes that are totally movable in any position, okay? So hopefully you learned a lot from mastering this really 2 scales, minor pentatonic and the major scale. And if you're just really thoughtful about it, you'll start to hear the relationship between those intervals in all the music that you listen to. So now that you've already got those scales down, you definitely want to check out more videos, which luckily for you, we've made it easy. You can just check that one out right there, that one out right there, and subscribe to the channel by clicking here, because we've got so many great videos from a lot of different instructors that's really going to help you out as you learn to master the guitar. So thanks a lot for checking it out.